Hi, James J. Yasso, also known as the Highway Scribe. This is chapter 4, post 4, talking about my book in the D, the first book of my series. In chapter 3, I talked about how I interjected romance in my book. In this chapter, I'm going to talk about the historical fiction side. And so the Christian Chaldeans came from prejudiced Muslim in Iraq to different social norms in America they had to adapt to. The biggest influencer on me is Ken Follett. Ken is a classical historical fiction writer, which he researches his history and makes fiction about it. He's so deep, he's great, and I love his books of World War I and World War II, which Ken puts you in the eyes of Americans, the generals, the civilians, the army, and also puts the same thing to Russia and England and Germany. And all these people deal with each other during a time of war. And another historical fiction writer I love, he's contemporary though, is John Dos Passos. Contemporary historical fiction means is like me. I lived through the 80s and I wrote about the 80s. And so did John Dos Passos when he wrote about World War I and pre-World War I. So John Dos Passos, the thing I took from him, and he's got a character that he writes about that sings songs sometimes, sings parts of a song sometimes. And I have one of my characters does the same thing in my book in the D. Another historical fiction writer that's influenced me, she's also classical, what she researches her books, is Isabella Allende. I love her book, The House of the Spirits, because she interjected mysticism inside of her book, which I didn't mind. But my favorite book of hers, which I think is her masterpiece, is Inés of My Soul. In Inés of My Soul, Inés, there's a character in there that's, well, the Spanish inside the book come to America and slaughter the Indians, which is sad. But Inés falls in love with a general or someone in the Spanish army, I'm almost positive, and he calls her Inés of My Soul. And then another historical fiction writer, which he's not a historical fiction writer, actually, he's a horror writer, Stephen King, but he wrote a historical fiction book, 11/22/63 is the name of the book. He's got a guy that goes back in time to try to prevent Kennedy's assassination, which is relevant today to Charlie Kirk's assassination, God rest his soul, how we could try to go back in time to prevent his assassination. So this is the end of this post, this chapter. See you in the next chapter. We'll talk about literary fiction or maybe even horror. And thank you very much and be safe out there.